Right, hello guys, welcome to another Sony A7Rii video. Oh dear, the ideas. Yes, welcome to another Sony A7Rii video. I thought it'd be a good idea to make this video because I've had a couple of requests on my other videos, as in what kind of settings do you use on your camera, for example through video, stills, and just general things that I use on the camera, with like the little tricks and stuff it can do inside the body. So we're going to go through that today. Settings on my Sony A7Rii. Let's do it. So I thought I'd film outside today because it's a glorious day. The sun's in at the moment, but it was out. Yeah, coming into summer now, and I'm filming on this Sony RX100 Mark IV. I keep on forgetting this little guy's got 4K. So we're shooting 4K, so that's good. I'm going to start with just the general kind of stills with this camera. If I go into the menu, I can show you that the aspect ratio is 3:2, which is kind of standard. The standard. I don't want to go 16:9 because that's a little bit too narrow. So shooting 3:2 aspect ratio. The quality I'm shooting in is the raw, uncompressed raw file, not the compressed raw file. I don't know why they have compressed raw file and uncompressed raw file when they have JPEG file as well. Yeah, so the quality is raw, or you can go raw and JPEG, extra fine, fine, standard. This is what I was talking about in my one of my Lightroom tutorial videos, that always shoot raw. Well, if it doesn't have a raw setting, just shoot the extra fine JPEG in your camera, and the raw file type is uncompressed. So these file sizes are about 85 megabytes. On my Canon 7D Mark II that I had before this camera, they were probably only 15 to 20 megabytes in RAW. So this is a hell of a lot of detail coming out of this camera. It's so good in Lightroom because you can really like explore the dynamic range and stuff, and push the hues and colours around a lot more when you're shooting RAW. So that's my file type I shoot in. What else do I have in this camera that I use for stills? The APS-C mode. So if you go into the menu and you go on to the settings, the little cog, the wheel, and you go to number 6 and you scroll down to APS-C / Super 35 mode. I use this quite a lot because I use this lens, which is the 8-16 Sigma 4.5 to 5.6. I've had this for freaking years now. This is one of the main kind of expensive lenses that I first got when I got into photography, and I still use this lens, and this can only work on an APS-C body. So it's so awesome you can change this into APS-C mode. So I can go on there and work, and for it to work, use one of these. This is the MC11 Sigma adapter, which works very well. I might demonstrate that to you right now. Camera open, slot the MC11 on, click, red on red. It's a Canon mount, by the way, so the MC11 is Sony E to Canon mount, and boom. And there we have a fully functioning 8-16 Sigma lens on the Sony body with the MC11 adapter. Very cool setup, I must admit. I mean, because we're shooting 8mm, I think it's about an 11 or a 14 equivalent in a full frame camera. So let me show you what that looks like when I haven't switched it into APS-C mode yet. So this is what you can see. Now, it's very simple. You just go into the menu, cog, number 6, Super 35 mode on, and then your lens works exactly how it should do. Recorded that just to show you what the MC11 adapter looks like if it's not in APS-C mode when using an APS-C lens, and I'm so glad I can still use this lens when changing to a completely different body. So yeah, that's pretty much the stills covered. So the majority of you who are watching this video are probably waiting for the video settings that I use. Now, this gets very like creative, very awesome, because you can do so much with this camera. So first of all, let's start from the top. It shoots 4K in 24 and 30p. You know, yeah, your normal frame rates. I normally shoot 24 frames per second if I'm doing 4K, and the same as 1080 when I'm shooting kind of moving subjects but not the whole camera moving. So if I'm shooting someone speaking, or like a group of people, or say like I'm just sitting down talking to you now, I'm shooting 4K now, 24 frames per second on the Mark IV there. So I do that when I'm shooting people, speaking, or just sit down video with you guys, I shoot in 24. So what you do is you go to file format, you choose 4K, and then you can have 24p, 30p, 60 megabytes per second, or 100 megabytes per second, so it's awesome speed in this camera. That's what Sony's good for. And the codec is much better than Canon. For how many months I've had this camera now, I can see definitely, even on my A7Rii Mark II, even though the sensor is smaller and it's less megapixels, those files are still larger than if I would take video on this. The Sony files are much, smaller and condensed, so it's so much easier to work with, like transferring to hard drives and importing into Final Cut Pro and stuff like this. So it's very easy to work with Sony. Yeah, so 4K, you choose the file format up there. It's called XAVCS 4K, and then I choose 24p, 100 megabytes per second. And then if I want to get creative, this is kind of my go-to if I'm doing a visual film, because the 4K can't shoot 60 frames. 60 frames being you can slow the footage down and get some nice slow-mo. Sony can't do that in the A7R2 yet, but I'm guessing so it will do it in the next one to shoot 60p. So I choose the XAVCS HD, and my go-to setting is the 60 frames per second at 50 megabits per second. 50 megabytes, I don't know what it is, 50 megabits or whatever per second. You can choose 30p, 24 or 120. I haven't really shot 120 because it's only 720p HD. It's not full definition, full high definition. I know all these like frame rates and HD stuff is confusing, but bear with me, stay with me here. So yeah, those are all the record settings, but my go-to setting is 60p 1080, so I can slow it down by 40 or 50% in Final Cut Pro and get that nice kind of slow motion you see in my visual films. So other things about this camera, apart from video, in stills I always shoot manual. I never put it in auto or program or shutter priority mode. I never do that, I always have it in manual. I sometimes do autofocus. So when I'm vlogging and stuff, I would put autofocus on the continuous AF, so the FN button on the side of the camera, and you go to focus modes and I put in continuous AF, and I have the focus area in wide, so that means you can get, if you're over this side of the camera, you're more likely to be in focus, or the camera will try to get you in focus when you're anywhere in the frame. So that's what I do when I'm shooting a vlog, but I have to shoot vlogs on kind of native Sony lenses otherwise. If I shoot it on this 50mm, the continuous focusing doesn't really work. Normal focusing does work, but when I'm using this 50mm, I always have it in manual focus anyway. The buttons, let's get onto the buttons. I've always had this camera in the default that it came in. I haven't changed anything. I haven't even put any custom settings in the camera. I've only had it 4 months. So I keep this as it was. This is the shutter speed, that cog there. I've kept that since default, since I got the camera. Same with the aperture at the front there. It's always been the same. And the ISO is at the back. So you click the ISO and you can change ISO there. So it's very easy, just had its default. Shutter speed at the back, aperture, bang bang, ISO. So it's very easy to work with, didn't really change it. APS-C mode, we've covered that in stills. Now let's talk about video APS-C mode. Now this is kind of a weird one, because you'd think APS-C is getting less quality than it would do in full pixel readout. But in APS-C mode, if you switch it into S-Log, and if you're shooting 4K in low light, it's better than you would shoot in the full frame mode, because it's condensing all those pixels together and there's less noise when you shoot in APS-C mode 4K in S-Log. So when I'm shooting low light, like you saw in my 4K video, low light, street light, I called it, or something like that, that was all shot in APS-C mode using this lens, the 20mm 1.4, that's 816, shot APS-C mode 4K in S-Log. Now S-Log is good mainly for if you want full dynamic range in the image, as in the shadows are kind of pulled out and the highlights are washed, so when you go into post you can really edit and bring up the shadows, pull down the highlights, even pull up the highlights or whatever. It's really good for grading. And in S-Log, on the Sony A7R2, it starts at 800 ISO, which is the default it starts. I know the A7S II starts at about 3000 or something like that. So with the R2, when it's coming down dusk, or kind of when it's still bright outside, you can actually shoot S-Log ISO 800 and compensate with shutter speed and aperture. It's a much more versatile camera if you want to shoot in daylight for S-Log. Right, so we've spoken about APS-C mode. That's a little trick the camera can do. Not people know it can actually turn into APS-C mode. I probably have said APS-C mode a million gazillion times on this channel now, but it is like a sick thing. And if you guys don't know about it, you should know about it. So what other little tricks this camera can do? I don't use the zebra. The zebra is the thing is where it shows black and white lines where you're overexposed in the image. I rarely use that because normally I tend to underexpose, so it's better for grading. But there's something I do use though, which is focus peaking, which is incredible. I didn't have it on the Canon. Since I turned it on in the Sony A7Rii II, I have not turned it off. It's like the best thing. It's really, really cool to like use and stuff. So what it is, it gives you like, you can choose colors, red, white or yellow. So what it does is where your focus point is, or the line of focus, it covers that line of focus in either kind of red dots or yellow dots or white dots. So I've chosen red. It's easier to see against, you know, bright sunlight and stuff, so I chose red. And it's so good. Like when you're, I mean, autofocus normally, some cameras miss autofocus, some lenses miss autofocus, and you come back with blurry shots. But focus peaking is so good because probably 95% of the time you're going to be in focus where the red line is. There is kind of ways, it does come an understanding to know when you're in focus with the focus peaking, because if I'm using it on the Mark IV right now, I didn't actually know the Mark IV had focus peaking, so this is so cool. But say my hand, it's red on the top, yeah, or red around the outline, and sometimes that doesn't mean it's in focus. You have to pull back and pull forward to get the most line of red on your hand before it's in focus. If it's only a little bit, like a little dot, I mean the trees behind now, you can't see it, but I can see it on the camera. They've got red dots on, but they're not in focus. My face is in focus, so you have to understand where to kind of pull it from. And this is why people kind of complain about focus peaking, because they don't really know how to use it. But if you pull back and forth to get the most red on the outline where you want to focus, then you nailed it. So focus peaking is it's a bit tricky to use, but once you get the hang of it, you would not turn it off. It's the most awesome thing ever. So focus peaking is always on my camera. Ah, the bloody cat now. White balance. So my white balance is just on auto white balance. I've kept it like that for ages, but I've been watching some other videos on YouTube and they say white balance is probably not a good idea to go with when you're shooting video and you want to grade, because when you're shooting like say that way and then you turn around, it can be a completely different situation and it could change your white balance. So there is ways you can do your own white balance. You can put in custom settings, so you can choose your own color temperature. So say if you're looking towards a warm grade, you can put it up to kind of 5,000 upwards, and if you're going cooler you can go 4,000 down with the temperature. So that's white balance, but I've always kept it in auto white balance when taking photos and video. And I'm going to say this doesn't seem like a structured video, but I will put the times down below in the description like I do in a normal video anyway, to say what time I spoke about this and this. But it's just really a discussion with you guys, sort of tell you my settings, and because you guys wanted to know. So I'm just kind of going through the camera as I kind of look at it really, and as I think of things. Oh, I do that as well. It wasn't really, I know I wrote stuff down in this book to talk about, but it's not like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. It's just kind of things that I've been using with the camera now for 4 months, and it's really like, it's the best camera I've ever owned, I think. The Sony A7Rii II allows me to do so many things and get creative. 4K is definitely a big kind of production push in my channel. I've never really done 4K before. Now every single video I've done since my scheduled video, the sit down videos, but are the ones I'm talking about, have been 4K. And I do want to kind of expand into 4K vlogging and stuff like this. So yeah, that's probably about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you took some good points from it, definitely with the focus peaking and the 4K and the different frame rates and stuff like this, which you can try out on your camera if you've got a Sony or any other camera that shoots 4K, 60p, 120 or whatever. You can try them out. And do comment down below if I've missed anything. I probably have, about talking about what I use in this camera. But yeah, so do give me comments down below if you think I've missed anything and any questions. But yes, another thing, it's less than 20 days that me and Hannah go away on our holiday trip. At the end of April, the 24th, so that's coming up. I'm going to do a whole day, every day. I think we're going away for about 6-7 days. I'm going to do vlogging every day like I do, like I did with San Francisco and the Venice and stuff. So my normal kind of routine when I go away, I do daily vlogs. And I've seen a lot more subscribers coming to the channel, so hello guys, welcome if you're a new subscriber. And all you subscribers probably came because of the Sony videos, so I hope you like daily vlogs and travel videos. So they're going to be coming on this channel very soon. Yes guys, hope you enjoyed. Give it a thumbs up, watch some other videos, and yeah, see you next one. Goodbye. Nasty, crackly sap. Jesus Christ. Sorry, my dog just got choked of some. Shush, stop it. Shush.